Welcome in, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. I am your host, Cam'Ron Johnston, joined by your two co-hosts today, Jacob Boyers and Tyler Britton. Guys, the Cats went into Seattle against Gonzaga Bulldogs, down 16 at half. I know just myself, I turned it off in the living room and went to my bedroom. I was going to keep it on, but if I started to doze off, I wasn't going to be mad about it. But boy, did this team get us right back into it. Finds a way to win the game 90-89 in what was one of the craziest games I think I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, to that point, Cam, we were over at somebody's house watching the game, and at halftime, I was so ready just to go home and go to bed, but powered through and very thankful we did. Probably as unexpected of a win as I can remember, at least maybe since that 2018 team went down to West Virginia and got behind a ton in the second half. And Kevin Knox led a heck of a comeback. But, I mean, what more can you say about the fight of this team, starting point guard Lamont Butler out first half. It looks like you're just going to get ran off the floor. Kirk Kriisa gets hurt in the second half. You're down to essentially nobody that's played point guard for you besides they ran Travis Perry out there for a couple minutes. But, man, Jackson Robinson, Andrew Carr, those two stepped up in the second half in a huge way and led this team to a victory.
Yeah, boys, I'm shocked you remember much of that game, man. I know you were getting blitzed over there, having a good time.
it was a fun Saturday, but I made it.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good game. It was obviously a slow start for us. Went down by 16 at half there, but what an incredible comeback. The second half there really put our foot down and said, no, we're going to fight through this. I think we put up 11 or 13 straight points. To start the first half or something like that. It was great. Or sorry, the second half. Thought we did pretty good there, and then going into overtime, got a little bit of a lead. Gave us a little bit of a thriller there at the end. Wish that Andrew Carr there would have made both his free throws to seal the deal, but I'll take the dribble out to win that game. I don't know who poked it out there at the end, but it was just an incredible finish.
Yeah, it was actually Andrew Carr who did poke it out there at the end, so we did make up for it a little bit. Would still love to see those free throws getting made, especially, I think at one point we were like 16 of 16 from the line. And as soon as John Shambi said something about it, I think we missed like 3 of our next 4. So the announcers' jinx are true to form. But let's go ahead and dive into that first half a little bit. Man, it just seemed like nothing was going right. We really weren't even shooting that poorly at least from 3. From 3, we actually shot better in the first half than we did the second half. But, I mean, we were getting out-muscled on the glass. We got out-rebounded by 9 in the first half. And, man, Graham Ike, or Ike, however you want to pronounce his last name.
Ime, I think, is –
Ike, however you want to pronounce his name. He finds a way to just destroy the Cats all the time. He had 18 at the half and looked like there was just no way of stopping him. He almost had a first-half double-double. Jacob, what did you think about the start of the first half from the Cats?
Yeah, obviously slow, kind of all the – issues we talked about, with this team could rear their ugly head. They all were. They weren't making a ton of shots offensively, getting absolutely bullied down low, giving up a ton of offensive rebounds. IK, it seemed like, would get anything and everything he wanted. Amari Williams couldn't stop him. Andrew Carr couldn't stop him. Brandon Garrison couldn't stop him. Obviously it looked ugly. Like I said, I thought for sure we were going to lose by 30. I didn't think there was any chance in hell they were able to come back. But kind of keep diving into it. But yeah, first half, really as bad as we've seen this team play. And it showed in the score and in the rebounding column.
What do you think we have to do to get better in the first half? Because it seems like almost no matter who the opponent is. I think the last time we actually started out strong was against Jackson State 2.5 weeks ago. And we've seen 4 or 5 straight games where this team's come out sluggish and it's come out slow. We saw it in the Clemson game. Even going back to the Duke game, we started off really slow in that game. At some point, we're not going to be able to come back from behind 16. What do you think is going to be, gets us going in the first half of some of the next games coming up?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird, too, because, you hear Pope talk about it, and he almost talks like he's not worried about it. He used this as another gathering data points game. hopefully going forward we don't have to gather as much data and we can kind of.
Right.
But I don't know. You know, it just seemed like the physicality wasn't there. Like Gonzaga almost, just kind of came out, punched us in the mouth, and like that's what scared me going forward. But I mean, dude, I don't know what Pope tells these guys at halftime. I don't know if it's one of the other assistants that gives a pep talk. I don't know, but like something like gets them fired up. And I mean, it was a completely different team we saw in the second half. I mean, um, that team in the second half is as good as anybody in college basketball, and that's without, again, maybe one of your three best players in Lamont Butler.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, we already got the news on Kirk Kriisa. It's going to be out a couple months. I mean, potentially coming back for the tournament run. What do you? I mean, we've got guys that have got to step up. Obviously, you can't expect Jackson Robinson to play close to 40 minutes every night, kind of like how he did yesterday or Saturday. Now, are you expecting to see more from guys like Travis Perry and Colin Chandler? Is that what you're expecting going forward?
I'm not. I think you'll see one of two of Butler or Jackson Robinson on the floor pretty much at all times. And to be honest, like let's be real, that was the most comfortable Jackson Robinson seems like he's looked in a game all season. Like maybe him at point is not the worst thing in the world. Obviously, you're not going to play him there when Lamont's not in foul trouble or not injured. But I mean, for this game coming up, yeah, we'll probably see a little more of Travis Perry and Colin Chandler. But I think like once you really get into it and Kerr's still out, I think the vast majority of the minutes are just going to kind of be split between those two at point guard. And again, Jackson Robinson and Andrew Carr took over the second half. I thought it was as comfortable as Jackson Robinson's looked all year. They were kind of running a lot of pick and roll with him as the ball handler, and I thought that was a great adjustment. And you know, if that's what it takes to get him going, I'm all for it. Let's put the ball in his hands a little more.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about Jackson's performance on Saturday against Gonzaga. He had 18 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, 7 of 15 from the field, and 2 of 2 from the free throw line, 2 of 5 from 3. Like you said, looked a lot more comfortable in the second half. He really started getting it going. And he was actually efficient from the floor, which is something he hasn't been in a couple games. And 5 assists from a guy who, Pope was telling a story about how a game at BYU, Jackson looked at him and said, never want to play the point again. He looked pretty comfortable for a guy that, was so adamant against playing the point. Hopefully that continues going forward. Do you think this is a stepping stone game for Jackson? Get him going?
Absolutely. How can it not be? Not only, did he have 18 points, and I think he only had 3 in the first half, so that's 15 in the second half. But like, not only did he have those points, he had them at times where you had to have a basket. Like there a couple of those shots, if he misses, we're not winning that game. Every time, we needed a bucket, he was there to go get it. He made that really tough floater, had a really nice turnaround. Like you saw, I think for the first time Saturday night, a guy that can play in the NBA. Like those were tough jump shots. Obviously, we still want to see him shoot a little better from behind the arc, but him and Andrew Carr, when we needed a bucket, they went and made it. And yeah, I can't be anything but excited from what I saw from Jackson Robinson.
Yeah, getting to your point, Jackson was 1 of 8 in the first half, finishes 7 of 15. I mean, he was outstanding in the second half. Another guy who's outstanding in the second half, just like you mentioned. And my MVP pick of the game, finally got one right here.
After you crushed him the whole pod.
Completely crushed the entire pod and then called him my MVP. So you got to take the good with the bad. Andrew Carr had 19 points, 7 rebounds, 8 of 12 from the field. I mean, it just seems like game in and game out. We have to call it how it is. He is still a liability on the defensive side of the ball, but he has been so efficient on the offensive side of the ball, especially getting it in between, 15 feet. He's just been so efficient, and it's so good to see. He's one of our best bucket getters at the time.
Yeah, and I think we kind of saw again Saturday night. The two, by far, our 2 toughest games this year were Duke and Gonzaga, and those are the 2 games Andrew Carr's played his best. Again, I would still like to see him shoot jump shots a little more. I think there were a couple times Saturday night he still passed those up. But you asked me right now who I'd rather have the ball in the post with down the stretch, him or Amari Williams. I'm taking Andrew Carr all day. I know he missed the 2 free throws, but I think that was kind of something that was a little more abnormal. He's usually going to hit his free throws down the stretch and just make big time play after big time play. I mean, he's one of my favorite players on the team, and I think going forward, Cam, I'm gonna have to fight you a little harder on the Andrew Carr slander.
Hey, it's not slander. Just calling it how I see it. I still picked him to be the MVP in this game. So you did. I still see the potential on the offensive side of the ball. The thing that I was impressed about him in this game was pulling down 7 rebounds. I mean, that's something that he's been very inconsistent on the glass. He'll either have 8 boards or he'll have 2 in the entire game. So it's good to see him crash the glass with some consistency in this game.
Yeah.
It was weird. Amari Williams in this entire game, he was supposed to be your big physical center, 3 rebounds in this game. And I tell you what, I'm getting a little concerned with Amari, especially on the defensive side of the ball. This is a guy who was a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year in his conference at Drexel, and I just haven't seen that this entire season. Yeah. Common monologue with Duke kind of destroyed him in that game. Was it Shefflin? Guy went like 1 for 20, but he destroyed him on the boards and had 20 boards in that game. And in this game, I mean, you saw Graham Ike. He went off in this game against Amari as well. Are you kind of concerned with what Amari has put on tape so far this season?
Yeah. I mean, Amari's probably been the player I've been the most critical of, I think throughout the season. He didn't turn the ball over Saturday, which was huge. But yeah, just like the aggressiveness isn't there. I don't know if it's just the step up in level of competition and, maybe, but there's times where like he does show flashes, right? Like there's times where he'll make a couple really nice blocks, have a good rotation on a help side defense, and make really nice plays. But I mean, to kind of change subjects, how about Pope? Like realizing that man to man, like wasn't going to cut it against Gonzaga, so he goes out. He's switching back and forth between man and that 1-3-1. A lot of times they were doing off the first pass back to a man, and it just completely took everything Gonzaga was doing right away from them. Nembhard felt like killed us in the first half with the pick and roll with Ike, and then the second they switched that zone and started going underneath, he didn't want to shoot. So I think maybe with Amari not being the guy that we were hoping, Pope's going to have to kind of do more of that playing with his defense and trying to tinker with it and figure out what's going to work on a night in, night out basis.
Yeah, talking about that switch of defenses going through the 1-3-1 zone, switch in on the first pass back to man. Ryan Nembhard had 8 points and 7 assists in the first half, finished with 13 points and 10 assists. So you can just see just in the numbers there, going from the first half to the second half, how much that changed his ability to facilitate and get open looks for guys like Graham Ike. I mean, it was just it's just stuff we haven't seen for quite a while coming out. And like you said, post game, it's easy to try stuff when you feel like you got nothing to lose. I mean, we were down 16. You kind of just, it was one of those throw the kitchen sink at them and see what sticks kind of things. And you saw it worked and they kept going to it. I was honestly kind of shocked that it seemed like Mark Few really didn't have any answers to it. That was what kind of surprised me, and a guy like Ryan Nembhard, who has been in college basketball for a couple of years now, one of the best point guards in the nation. I was kind of surprised that he couldn't adapt to that, along with Mark Few.
Yeah, if I was a Gonzaga fan, I'd be very disappointed, and especially Nembhard. Like when Kentucky just started going under their screens, they were daring him to shoot, and he didn't. I don't know how many threes did he attempt in this game.
He was 1 for 5.
1 for 5, but I think a lot of those came in the kind of the first half. But like, obviously, the one he hit was with 12 seconds after 8 seconds, whatever it was. But yeah, he didn't look like once they were taking away the role, there was nothing there for him. And then to your point, I mean, Mark Pope thoroughly outcoached Mark Few, it felt like. And then you mentioned the quote that Pope said about it's easy to try things when you got nothing to lose. Well, for 15 years here in Kentucky, we watched a coach that, may have been down 20 in the second half, and he's still going to roll out there and do the exact same thing. So I'll give Pope all the credit in the world, man.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I saw a clip of Calipari's press conference from the Gonzaga game last year, where after the game he just said, "We lost the game in the first half."
Yeah.
Well, I think you can already see the change of philosophies there. Cal's actually playing Michigan right now. Don't know what the score of that game is, but probably not going well either. But
well, he was down to UTSA at halftime on Saturday. So
yeah, quite a wild turn of events and philosophies we've had.
They're down 14 in the first half, so things are not going well in Fayetteville.
Things are definitely not going well. I mean, speaking of things, going well, how about Brandon Garrison in this game? 10 points, 9 rebounds, only played 17 minutes in this game. The technical foul he got called for is probably one of the cheapest technical fouls I think I've ever seen called. Especially, I'll tell you what, if that would have been they would have hit that 3, last minute, something like that, and they would have won by 2. Boy, I tell you what, I would have put my detective Tyler Britton on the case. We would have found out that referee's address, and we would have been, calling up some prank calls, egging his house, doing a little bit of something. Because, man, that was such a tough technical foul to get called.
And can I vent for a second?
Go for
it. A guy I used to really like, and I thought was one of the smartest, announcers in the game, Jimmy Dykes. I mean, how old man yelling at the sky can you be after that technical and just they're trying to get that nonsense out of the game? What nonsense? Like Jimmy, I like you. You've been a little ridiculous. It felt like through the Clemson game and Gonzaga game, but I was more mad at Jimmy Dykes than I think I was at the ref.
Yeah, I mean, the weird part about it was Graham Ike did the exact same thing. I think maybe like 2 or 3 possessions later, this exact same thing, finishing an and one just like that, same exact style play, and nothing was called.
I thought it was
a little bit of the home cooking. For sure.
I thought it was in the rules that if you made an and one, you had to yell it. Like, I've never seen someone not yell it. Like,
yeah, it was such a wild turn of events right there. I mean, we especially we started getting things going, getting a technical foul like that kind of put us a little behind again. Started coming back, of course, but I mean, talk about we're coming back, making this comeback, and I'm just sitting there. I just see Kerr catch a pass and just outlet it to nobody in the middle of the, obviously, fractures his foot. Can we talk about the balls on this guy? Fractures his foot and somehow gets back and goes up for a straight contest on defense. I mean, if that doesn't make you love a guy, I don't know what will.
After playing by far, his worst game Tuesday night, we were all saying like almost I don't even know if you can play him. I mean, he still made some mistakes. That's just how he's going to play. But I thought he played really well Saturday night, given the circumstances, right? That's a game on paper. You're probably looking at him to bring you 10 to 12 minutes of, energy. But with Lamont being out, he's got to play pretty much the entire game up to that point. And, to fracture your foot, run down, contest the shot. I mean, jump as high as you could. Like that had to feel a million times worse jumping back down on that. And he never gave up. The kid's tough as hell, man. And I love him. He's such a psycho out there. When he took that charge and he's sitting there like flopping around like a madman, like he had me ready to run through a wall. And that's the energy he's going to bring. And I think they said 3 to 6 weeks right now, maybe a little longer. Hopefully he's kind of on the shorter end of that because I would love to have him back. End of January, February, and have him for the tournament.
Yeah, I think that's a guy you definitely just you've got to carve out his role, especially let him know, what his role with this team is. I mean, in this game, he played 27 minutes, and I think he went out with 9 minutes left to go in this game, so he was playing virtually the entire game. Had 8 points, 3 boards, 4 assists, only 1 turnover, and shot 2 of 5 from 3. I don't think there was much more you could ask from him, especially going up against Ryan Nembhard, who is one of the better point guards in the country.
Yeah, he was definitely a liability out there on defense, and
he always will be.
yeah. Like that's the thing with him. Like as bad as he played Tuesday night, I thought he, obviously showed a ton of heart to bounce back and play well. But yeah, and then another game where the Cats shoot poor behind the arc. 4 games in a row now. I think they're shooting like 26% over the course of those 4 games. Cam, are you worried about the 3-point shooting going forward, or what's our thoughts on that?
A little worried about the volume that we're still taking. We still are getting nowhere near to Pope's 30 to 35 a game. I mean, we only shot 28% from three in this game, 29.5 from the first half, 28.6 from the second half, but we only shot 7 in the second half. Now, granted, it worked. We made the 16-point comeback, so it's hard to be too critical of it. But you definitely do have to be a little worried about it. Tyler, what are you thinking about the 3-point shooting so far?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily worried about it just yet. I mean, overall throughout the course of the season, we've made a lot of threes. We started off obviously really hot. Just kind of give you guys a little transparency with where we're at in the season here. The percentage wise, we've kind of gone down a little bit. We're now middle of the pack in the SEC, but in terms of attempts, we're top 3, and then in makes we're tied for first with Auburn right now. So we're still. I think where our overall game plan really comes into play is, we're going to have to go for volume. I don't think, Cam, to your point, I don't think we're at the 35 threes per game that we're looking for, but the volume's still there in terms of where we're at in the SEC, and I think that's something that we'll improve on. We just played a really tough competitive game against Gonzaga. I think as we go into some of these other games down the stretch here, or some of these games coming up here, I think we'll start to focus on a little bit more on the 3-point game, get that rhythm back. I'm just happy that we played hard basketball in the second half there to get the dub. So I'm not necessarily worried just yet.
Yeah, I'm a little worried, but not super. Like these guys are obviously, we got good shooters on this team. I mean, Kobe Brea clanked one off the side of the backboard. That's not something I hope I ever.
Airball one too.
He did airball a deep one. So, I mean, like at some point you got to be a little concerned. But one thing that really impressed me, about really all of our big wins this year, whether it's been Duke or this one, or even at times against Gonzaga or Clemson, is I didn't think if this team wasn't shooting well, this team would be able to pull off big wins and keep games competitive. They're much better in the paint, maybe not in the paint, but from 2-point range than maybe I thought. Whether it's transition buckets, getting Carr in the post, or Jackson Robinson showed a high efficiency with the mid-range jumper on Saturday. So, I mean, if you're shooting 26%, or what they shoot in the game, 28. If you're shooting 28% from behind the arc and you can still put up 90, I know it went to overtime, but still, like that's just not something I saw happening with these guys. But I do agree. I would like to see them shoot a little more.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit just to Mark Pope's philosophy. You don't see too many deep twos, so that field goal percentage is going to jump a little bit. So we're not expecting them to shoot like they did in the first half. From 2, they only shot 33.3%. Second half, they shot 53.1%, and then in overtime, they shot 71% from the field. So I think that's kind of, the identity of this team is, we're not taking hard contested twos. Jackson, I know, did make a couple. Andrew Carr made a tough fadeaway as well.
Yep.
I mean, getting back to just the 3-point shooting in general, if I told you between Kobe Brea, Ainsley Almanor, and Otega Owe, we went 2 of 10 from 3. I mean, 2 of those guys are your best shooters on your team in Kobe Brea and Ainsley Almanor. And then Otega's been really good from deep so far this season, probably one of our most consistent guys. So I am definitely starting to get to the point where I am worried about it. Hopefully, we do have some tune-up games coming up. We get to play Colgate on Wednesday night. And then say what you want. I know it's a rivalry game, so there's always going to be a little something to it. This Louisville team's not good either.
They stink.
Yep. L's down, as always. Of course. We still got a little bit of time until that game, but you can always get an L's down when you need to.
Absolutely.
Jacob, what are you looking forward to? Colgate's coming up. What are you thinking?
I mean, as far as Colgate, we better run through them. I'll be kind of interested to see. Like I said, you'll probably see more of the Travis Perrys and Colin Chandlers, just because I don't think Lamont is playing in this one. I think they said they expect him to be back Saturday though, which is huge. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how those guys do get a little more run. as far as the game, you better just kind of take care of business. And this team, for the most part, always has against the, kind of lesser competition. But I'm not going to lie and say I've watched Colgate this year, but I've looked at their record. I've seen the teams they've lost to, and this does not seem like a very good basketball team. So we should take care of business.
Yeah, I just don't think Lamont should play in this game.
Yeah.
Even if you do think he is good to go, even if he is, 85%, give him an extra 2-3 days off. Let him get ready for the Louisville game. Because after that Louisville game, we talked about it a little bit off podcast. We have 3 games in a spell of 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So, we have time to get the bodies right. No need to force them into this Colgate game, especially with them being 2-8 coming into this game. Expect to see a lot of Travis Perry, a little bit more of Colin Chandler as well. And, hopefully for Tyler, Trent Noah gets in a lot this game. I don't see him getting in early, but, I know Tyler's going to be on the edge of his seat getting into that second half when the Cats are up 25 or so on Colgate. Tyler, what are you thinking about for this game on Wednesday night?
Look, if I'm Mark Pope, I'm putting Trent Noah in to start the game. I think it's just that valuable of an asset to get him in there, get some 3-point shots in. I think you take the lead. No, but in all seriousness, here, we're going to get Cam, your favorite stat, the matchup predictor. We got 98.7% chance of winning this game.
It's
here.
too low.
That's
me
running the point, and it would be 98% chance of winning this game.
Yeah,
so that's kind of exactly what I'm about to say here. I think it's one of those games where, not that you don't want to play your best players. I think you absolutely should. You want to get their minutes in, but I don't think you need to push them for 30 to 35 minutes in the game here. I think you can get them easily for 20-ish minutes here, give or take, and then get some other guys a shot. Let's hope to see some more Trent Noah out there in the second half, so we can get some reps in for some of the younger guys and just see what we can do on the court with some other people, especially with some injuries out here. We just need to be more prepared, I think, down the stretch as we get into some of these bigger games. That's what I'd expect to see here. It's not going to be a close game. I don't expect it to at all. We can get into our point predictions here in a minute, but it's going to be a nice tune-up game, I think, compared to the last 2 games we played.
I'll just go ahead and talk about Colgate's schedule here, what they've done their last 5 games. They did beat UNC Wilmington, so that's a little scary. Just coming from a Kentucky fan, that's a little.
That's some bad memories, bad flashbacks. I just saw.
Yep, and the last 4 games they've lost 4 straight. Lost to Appalachian State, Sam Houston State, Cornell, and Northeastern. Which I don't know what Northeastern is. If I'm going to be honest with you guys.
Just a direction, as far as I'm aware.
That's what I thought as well. Jacob, what are you thinking?
I don't know. Let's say the Cats get back over 100. I'll say 102-65.
Tyler, give me your score prediction here.
I think we're going to get to 98, and I'll give Colgate 58.
Well, you stole the 98 right out of me, so I'm going to have to go. I guess I'm going to go 100 on the dot. I'll go 100-62. They find a way to, not get a 40-point margin of victory, but I think they get it to 38. Hopefully, we start to see some 3-point shooting. That's the crazy thing is we're all showing 98 plus point prediction, and this team still hasn't shot well, and that's still our predictions for the game. Warriors MVP for the game. Who is it?
Oh man. Well, let's see. We had Jackson Robinson last game. This will be the Kobe Bryant get back on track game. He'll play a lot with Lamont out, and I expect him to shoot the ball well.
Tyler, how about you?
He kind of stole mine, but I'm not going to back down. If he's going to go Kobe, then I'm going to go with Ortega. I think he has a good chance here to really do some damage. I think he's been holding back these last few games. I think that he's going to put up some good points, and he's going to do what he's been doing all year, kind of just being that unexpected leader on the court here.
This guy just always takes the chalk picks. Whatever the easiest thing is what this guy's taking week in, week out. Well, I'm going to keep going on my trend. And, I talked about how, Amari just hasn't been producing as of late, hasn't been showing up on the defense side of the ball like we thought he would. I'm going to go ahead and pick Amari Williams to have a big game in this game against Colgate. They don't have very good bigs. I think we all know that. They don't have very good guards either. I expect him to kind of have his way down low and get some more assists too. Especially, I mean, I'm not sure if Brandon Garrison's still fully over that illness. He's only played 17 minutes in this last game. So even then, get him a little bit more rest as well if you need to. And hopefully get Amari Williams going.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And then real quick before we hop off here, not to look too forward to Saturday, but can I tell you guys how bummed I am that Kirk Reese is not going to be out there against Louisville? I mean, that guy, yeah, he would be. He might break his hand doing the L's down.
Probably.
So, yeah, a little bummed not to see him. Real quick, one last thing. We didn't talk about the Jackson Robinson pass on Saturday. How about the cojones on that one?
And we've had 2 full court heaves already this season, basically.
And not only that, you're throwing it to Amari Williams, who sometimes acts like he doesn't know how to hold a basketball. like I think even Pope said, yeah, that one was a little bit of a, I don't know, but I mean, it worked. The cojones to make that pass, you gotta love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can kind of see just in that play itself the confidence that he had riding coming off of the final, couple minutes of regulation. That spilling into overtime, making that full court pass to Amari. It was right on the money, too.
Dime.
Luckily, Amari finished it off. I mean, we're 8-1 through 9 games, fellas. And we've had to play Gonzaga, Duke, and Clemson already. 8-1 with with a bunch of, ragtag guys that, nobody really wanted, nobody really valued. And here we are getting ready closer to conference play. And we've seen how good the SEC is so far. I mean, 14-2 in the SEC ACC matchup.
We don't need to talk about that.
Yeah, true. But even teams like Missouri beat Kansas. I mean, this SEC is fully loaded. We got to take up all these games that we can, like these Colgate games, and take them seriously. Get us ready for conference play. You guys, anything else before we sign out?
Yeah, I mean, if I told you there's a realistic chance. And I think they do it. You guys can comment if you disagree. But if I told you before the season that Kentucky was going to go 12-1 in the non-conference, we were all saying we didn't know how good this team would be before the season. They could be, pretty good. They could be, a bubble team. I mean, 12-1 with this non-conference schedule. And then, again, they still have to do it. They still got to beat Louisville and Ohio State. But, I think they do. Man, I mean, I'm ready to go. I'm ready for March.
Well, thanks a lot, Boyers. Now we're gonna go 8-5 to finish up 12. You talked too soon. No, it's exciting. Going hopefully knock on wood, 12-1 here to finish out the first 12. That'd be great before conference play. Excited for that.
Yeah. Speaking of Ohio State, Aaron Bradshaw has been reinstated. He's back with the team, so
good for him.
Yeah, point shaving allegations, I guess, have been cleared up. I guess he's all good. Maybe he should stop going 150 miles an hour in school zones. That should probably stop as well. But, like you said, going 12-1 before going into conference play. I mean, I think going through conference play, if you find a way to only lose 5 or 6 games, that's a win in itself.
Oh, yeah.
How good this SEC is. So going into conference play with as little as losses as you can. We've already played the strength of that schedule so far. We're going to face Louisville on Saturday. They're down one of their key players. In Ohio State, I mean, it's Ohio State.
Bad.
It's Ohio State basketball. I mean, this isn't Aaron Kraft and Jared Sullinger back in the early 2010s. So I don't think anybody's really worried about it there.
Yeah, and also they play Tennessee that night in football. So I mean,
what
there will be 4 Ohio State fans at the game, other than friends and family. So
it's really going to stink for Ohio State fans when they lose in football and basketball on the same day.
Dude,
it's really for them to find that.
I mean, but can you root for Tennessee to win?
Yeah, I live so close to Ohio, and there's so many Ohio State fans. I can very much root for Tennessee.
Dude, I don't know. You think Vols fans are annoying now? Wait until they win a playoff game, a fake playoff game now. But they ain't going to go into the shoe and win. So, anyway.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're watching Ohio State beat Tennessee this. All right, guys.
Well, and that'll wrap up the Cats Talk podcast. We gotta get
a shot in basketball, but football, God bless it, we're gonna go win a championship.
we gotta get Tyler to bed. So.
I was holding in this entire time. You guys were flaming me. So you know what? I jumped in. God bless it.
I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah, get us out of here. Sign us up.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in for yet another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. If you like listening to these hooligans talk about Kentucky basketball, make sure to continue to tune in. Make sure to follow us on social media. We got Instagram, we got TikTok, we got Twitter. Make sure to keep following us and share that with your friends and family as well. We'll be here again after the Colgate game, just break down that game and then break down a little bit more what we think is going to happen against Louisville. So make sure to tune in to that and be on the lookout for some giveaways. Thank you so much, and go Big Blue.
Go Big Blue.
Go Big Blue.